It just keeps getting crazier for the Spurs. There's a stat that's been going viral on social media today, shows Wemby among the NBA's elite in step back efficiency, being the only big man in the entire top 10 list. We have to get into that. Plus, an absolutely wild trade proposal that sends Jonathan Kuminga to the San Antonio Spurs in a move that I've seen some Spurs fans actually start to kind of back. We got to get into all of that coming up on this episode of Spurs Digest. But as always, guys, just a quick reminder before we get into it, 85% of you watching, it's probably you if you're watching this video right now, are not subscribed. We got daily Spurs content, rumors, reports, reactions, all that good stuff. It's completely free if you hit the button down below. Stay up to date on all things Spurs with this channel. And I want to start with Jonathan Kuminga. And let's get into this. Now, Jonathan Kuminga, we have, I was going to say a love-hate relationship with the Warriors, but I think it's more so a negative thing than anything. But all the same, the Warriors have tried to transition out of their dynasty era into something a bit new, and a lot of Warriors fans have, they've really put a lot of their chips on Jonathan Kuminga, banking on him being one of those guys that can lead them into the future. Is he that guy? In my opinion, no, but it's not about my opinion on whether he's going to lead the Warriors into the future. There's been a recent trade proposal that I'm going to link down below for you to go check out as well. But it sends Jonathan Kuminga to the San Antonio Spurs in exchange for Keldon Johnson, a 2027 first-round pick from Atlanta, of course, originally from that DeJounte Murray trade, and the Spurs' own 2028 first-round pick. Now, the reasoning for this is, basically Kuminga, 16 points, 5 boards, 2 assists last season. Was a fantastic season for him. He really stepped up from his sophomore year to his third year. And when he's featured offensively, he can look good. And he can look very good. He can have some amazing flashes. And the Warriors hope to see that potential this season. But for the Warriors, if they want to kind of keep that competitive window going while they still have Steph, while they still have Draymond, getting a guy like Keldon plus 2 firsts is hard to turn down. But for the Spurs, it's like, Keldon's great, but getting that potential for Kuminga, a guy who's a little younger, who could fit a bit longer term, who maybe fits into the Spurs org a bit better in the future, could make sense, though the cost is a lot. So I want to dive into the stats before I sort of give my opinion on this. We're going to flip this up and I'll make this bigger for you. Let's look at Jonathan Kuminga. Because in his age 21 season last year, you can see a huge jump from his sophomore year to his third year. He started 46 games last year. He shot 53% from the field. Yes, that three-point percentage is still a bit low, but that's not where he thrives, right? He took about 2 a game. That could increase if his percentage goes up, but the big thing with him is his insane athleticism. There were moments where his finishing, his athletic finishes, and just his plays in the half court, and especially in transition, just caught the NBA world by storm. Like, this guy looked amazing, and he started to be able to create his own shot a little bit more. And when you're looking at a guy like him for the future, I don't see him as that number one guy kind of ever. That's not what I see Kuminga as. I see him as kind of that third, maybe even fourth option on a very solid team. And you look at another guy like Aaron Gordon, for example. Now, Gordon's kind of transformed his game over the course of his career, and I don't think he's a great one-to-one comparison with Kuminga. But again, Kuminga's young, so you never really know. And actually, Kuminga's scoring numbers at the same point in his career look decent compared to Aaron Gordon as well. But Gordon has been featured as like kind of that lower tier starter on a championship team. And to me, that's kind of something Kuminga could really turn into, especially if his scoring keeps progressing. Whereas Keldon, on the other hand, let me make sure I press the right button. There we go. Of course, he regressed a bit in terms of points per game, but that was sort of to be expected with Wemby coming in, taking some more shots. And Keldon, like, while he did put up 22 a game in 22-23, reasonably efficient, not really actually that efficient, 45 from the field, 33 from 3 is not that great. But even the year before was not terrible, as he was up around 40% from 3. That's not, having him as a 20-point per game scorer is not my favorite thing. So this is not to put Keldon down or to rise Kuminga up. But if you just had to say, let's swap these players one for one, I think a lot of Spurs fans actually would take Jonathan Kuminga. And I know they're different players in a lot of ways, and there are some worries about Kuminga. I think Kuminga and Keldon Johnson actually share occasionally, again, I don't think they're that similar in terms of play style, but occasionally share some of the same lapses. Like, you'll see Kuminga have an occasional defensive lapse, and there was actually a lot of Warriors fans stating how his defense regressed this past season. However, in an environment like San Antonio, if you were to get him locked in, I actually feel like he could really improve on that. So, if I'm talking one for one, I think that would be great value to get someone like a Kuminga, a guy who is up and coming, a guy I'd be thrilled to have on my team for a Keldon Johnson, but it's the first round picks that really kind of put a damper on the whole thing. 2 first round picks are not worth nothing. That is worth so much. And for the Spurs to still control an Atlanta first round pick come 2027, to me, is still very valuable. I think that Atlanta pick to San Antonio in a few years may be more valuable than that pick would be to the Warriors, as the Warriors maybe eventually start to enter a rebuild in a couple of seasons. It's yet to be seen, but I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this whole thing down below. Keldon Johnson and 2 firsts for Jonathan Kuminga. I don't think I would do it. However, the idea of getting Kuminga on this team is really tempting, but it's just one of those things where I don't see the Warriors really going for it at this point, though the firsts are tempting, and I just don't see the Spurs giving up that much. But I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. But we're going to quickly move on to Victor Wembanyama. And I teased this at the start of this video with some of those highlights, and this is absolutely ridiculous. So there was a picture with some stats floating around today all over Instagram, all over Reddit, all over Twitter, all over everything, talking about the most efficient step back shooters in the NBA this season. And well, the guy that a lot of people were talking about, to be fair, is Luka. As you see him in the middle of the bottom row there, he comes 7th in effective field goal percentage on step backs at 59.2 EFG on 539 attempts, while no one else in the top 10 had more than 139. That's Donovan Mitchell in second. But there's a certain Spurs player there. The only guy on this entire list. Oh, I guess they had Bogey and J-Dub. No, he's not the only one with a nickname. Wow, whatever. I thought it was going to be funny. But no, Wemby, 59.7% EFG. And if you're not familiar with effective field goal percentage, it kind of normalizes your field goal percentage, knowing that 3-pointers are worth 3 points. So your 3-point percentage kind of gets normalized to a 2-point percentage, if that kind of makes sense. So basically, if you're highly efficient on threes, it really favors your effective field goal percentage. And that's exactly why Wemby is so high on this list, because he had 62 step back field goal attempts. And well, I just combined just a few to show you guys, and this is just a handful. There was a bunch more than this, but I think a lot of us remember some of these. Look how many of these are early in games too. 2-0, 10-6. Right, this one here, 8-7 as he pulls off this step back. As I love this little look back too. He just knows. And the ground he covers on that last step back against the Kings is absolutely wild. That's why Wemby's near the top of this list, because his step back 3 has become an insane weapon. Like, when he was first pulling these in the NBA, he didn't hit all of them. He wasn't super amazing at them, and I was like, is this really sustainable? But he has proven that not only is it sustainable, I'm going to bring this back up, not only is it sustainable, he's literally one of the best step back shooters in the entire NBA. Look at the players on this list. Also, J-Dub, I'm surprised Jalen Williams is that high, but I kind of like that. I haven't really seen a whole lot of step backs for him, whatever. But look at these other guys. Like, DeRozan's more of a mid-range step back guy, of course, so he's always going to be effective there. Kobe White's a bit of a surprising one, too. But who's the biggest guy outside of Wemby? It's Luka, right? This guy, again, at 539 attempts, absolutely insane, his efficiency on his step backs. But Wemby's the only guy that's maybe a position above a small forward. He's the only PF or center on this entire list. The fact that he is doing this at his height with this team is just, it's hard to come up with words, really, when you're talking about a guy like him. And, this was shared in my friend group, who, I'm the only Spurs fan in my friend group, but we're looking around, we're talking together, and it's like, every time you see one of these stats, it almost brings you back to, and I hate to make this comparison, but I kind of don't hate it at the same time. You see these Wilt records, and you're like, oh, that's unbreakable. You see a Wemby stat, something he's crazy, you're like, that doesn't make any sense. How is Wemby among the league's best in effective field goal percentage on step backs, right? And then you just watch him playing, you're like, well, how did he cover that much ground? How is he that fast? How did he block that shot? He's doing alien things. There's a reason he's kind of called the alien, and every time something like this comes up, that conversation sparks again. Man, he really does have GOAT potential, doesn't he? And look, I'm not going to get ahead of myself here, but every single time I see something like this, it just makes me happy. It gets me excited, and I just cannot wait for Spurs basketball. You know what? I'm going to treat you guys. I'm going to play this one more time, because this is I'm not going to say what it's like. That probably won't get monetized on YouTube. However, watching this, I could do it all day. I could do it all day, and I'd enjoy it all day, because there's more than just this. There's countless highlights of him doing this exact same stuff, and these are just a few step backs. There's so much more to his game. Look, I'm not going to turn this into a big old Wemby glazing session. That's not what this video is about. However, it is about letting you know how efficient he is on these step backs, how crazy this is moving forward, and how he can turn that into a very valuable weapon. But I want to hear your thoughts on all the stuff discussed in this video down below. I'd love to interact with the comments, see what you guys have to say, because that'll do it for this episode of Spurs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Like I said, 85% of you watching, even still now, haven't hit that button. And if you want your new home for daily Spurs news, this is the spot to be. I'm your host, Josh Gosse. I'll catch you in the next one.